Spain had always felt like a fever dream to me, the kind where the sun scorches your skin one minute and the shadows swallow you whole the next. I'd landed in Seville 3 years ago, fresh out of a dead-end marketing gig in Chicago, chasing some vague notion of reinvention. The city welcomed me with its labyrinth of narrow alleys, orange trees heavy with fruit, and that perpetual hum of life, vendors hawking churros at dawn, couples whispering secrets under Moorish arches. But it was Naomi who turned the dream into something dangerously real. She was the creative director at Estrella Media, a boutique ad firm tucked into a renovated hacienda on the edge of Triana. Naomi Hargrove, 35, sharp as a switchblade, with that effortless expat polish that made you wonder if she'd been born sipping sangria instead of growing up in some rainy Seattle suburb. Her auburn hair was always tousled just so, like she'd run her fingers through it mid-brainstorm, and her green eyes could pin you with a look that said she saw right through your pitch deck to the scared kid underneath. She'd hired me on a whim after I cold emailed her a rebrand concept for a local sherry distillery, bold colors, tagline about sipping the soul of Andalusia. "You've got fire, Isla," she'd said over Zoom, her smile crooked and knowing. "Come make some trouble." Trouble. Yeah, that was the word for it. From day one, working under her was like dancing on a tightrope strung between admiration and something sharper, something that twisted in your gut when she leaned over your shoulder to critique a layout, her perfume, a mix of jasmine and citrus, lingering like a secret. I was 28, still figuring out the kinks in my own story, half Mexican, half Irish, raised in a Pilsen walk-up where dreams were doled out in small, practical doses. I'd come out in college, dated a string of women who fizzled out like cheap fireworks, too cautious, too safe. Naomi. She was the opposite. A whirlwind of late-night revisions and rooftop brainstorming sessions, quoting Lorca one minute and dissecting Mad Men the next. She made the office feel alive, electric, like every campaign was a chance to rewrite the world's script. It started innocently enough, the way these things do in stories you tell yourself to sleep at night. A team happy hour after we nailed the sherry account, paella steaming on long tables, glasses clinking under strings of Edison bulbs in Plaza de España. Naomi sidled up to me as the sun dipped behind the Gothic spires, her blazer slung over one shoulder. "Isla, you're killing it. Walk with me. I need air that doesn't smell like garlic and desperation." We wandered the Maria Luisa Park, the air thick with jasmine and the distant strum of a busker's guitar. She talked about her own escape to Spain a decade ago, divorce from a Wall Street type who traded her for a corner office, the way Andalusia had pieced her back together with its chaos and color. "You ever feel like you're running from yourself?" she asked, pausing by a tiled fountain where koi swirled like unspoken regrets. I nodded, words catching in my throat. That night, over glasses of manzanilla at a hole-in-the-wall bar, she confessed she'd spotted my tattoo, a tiny Guadalupana on my wrist, from across the interview room. "It's beautiful. Like you." I laughed it off, heat rising in my cheeks, but the seed was planted. Over the next months, our orbits tightened. Coffee runs turned into lingering lunches at tabernas where we debate font choices like philosophers. She'd text me at midnight, "Can't sleep. Brainstorming that olive oil spot, your take on vulnerability in ads." I'd fire back sketches, heart racing as 3 dots danced on my screen. It was professional, I told myself. Mentorship. But late one Friday, after a grueling pitch to a finicky client, she poured us both Rioja in her office, the city lights twinkling beyond the balcony. To surviving, she toasted, her foot brushing mine under the desk. Neither of us moved away. The invitation came on a Tuesday, crisp and casual in her email, "Drinks after work. Celebrate closing the Flamenco Festival campaign." My treat, someplace off the grid. My stomach flipped. Off the grid meant away from the team, away from the safety of group chatter. I said yes, fingers trembling as I hit send. That evening, as the office emptied, I caught her reflection in the glass door, poised, unreadable, and wondered if this was the moment the tightrope snapped. We met at La Azadi, a rooftop spot in the Barrio Santa Cruz, where fairy lights draped over wrought iron railings and the Guadalquivir River snaked silver below. The air was balmy, laced with the scent of grilled sardines from street carts far below. Naomi was already there, 2 glasses of vermouth sweating on a high-top table, her white sundress fluttering like a flag of surrender. "You made it," she said, pulling out a stool for me, her smile that mix of mischief and melancholy that undid me every time. We talked for hours, the conversation meandering like the river, work gripes dissolving into dreams deferred. She admitted the firm's expansion stresses were cracking her armor. I shared how Seville had unearthed parts of me I'd buried back in Chicago, the freedom of being unapologetically queer in a city that celebrated passion like it was olive oil. "You're brave, Isla," she said softly, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "Coming here alone, building from scratch. I envy that." "Brave?" I wanted to laugh. Brave was her, uprooting at 25, forging an empire in a foreign tongue. But as the stars pricked the indigo sky, something shifted. Her hand found mine across the table, tentative at first, then sure. "I've been thinking about you," she murmured, voice low against the murmur of other patrons. "More than I should. As your boss, I mean. Lines blur here, don't they?" My pulse thundered. This was the precipice. I could pull back, chalk it to the wine. Instead, I leaned in, our lips meeting soft and searching, tasting of vermouth and possibility. It was a kiss that tasted like homecoming, gentle, then urgent, her hand cupping my cheek as if I'd vanish. When we broke apart, breathless, she whispered, "Come back to my place. Just to talk. Promise." Her apartment was in the Alfalfa district, a sun-drenched flat with whitewashed walls, potted geraniums spilling over the balcony, and bookshelves groaning under volumes of Neruda and Capote. We didn't talk much. Instead, we sat on her worn leather couch, knees touching, unraveling the what-ifs. She told me about Elena, her ex from Madrid, fiery painter who'd left her gutted 2 years back. I swore off love after that. Too messy. I shared my own ghosts, the college girlfriend who'd ghosted me mid-semester, the fear that I'd always be the side character in someone else's plot. By dawn, tangled in her sheets, not crossing lines, just holding each other as the call to prayer echoed from the Giralda Tower, we'd crossed into something irrevocable. "This could ruin everything," she said, tracing patterns on my arm. I kissed her forehead. "Or make it worth it." The next weeks were a haze of stolen moments. Mornings blurred into office hours where we'd exchange glances loaded with secrets, afternoons spilling into siestas where her place became our sanctuary. She'd cook paella with saffron she'd smuggled from Valencia, we'd dance to Rosalia in her kitchen, bodies swaying to rhythms that felt like ours alone. Naomi made me feel seen, not as the ambitious junior copywriter, but as Isla, the woman who cried at sunsets over the Alcazar, who journaled poetry in Spanglish, who yearned for a love that didn't demand apologies. But cracks spiderwebbed early. Whispers in the break room, Isla's cozying up to Naomi, "Bet she's gunning for that promotion." I brushed it off, but doubt gnawed. Then came the late nights she'd vanish for, client dinners, returning with lipstick smudges that weren't mine and excuses that rang hollow. "It's nothing," she'd say, pulling me close. "Just schmoozing." I wanted to believe her, but trust is a fragile thing in the shadow of power imbalances. The first real fracture hit during Feria de Abril, Seville's explosion of polka-dot dresses and casetas throbbing with sevillanas. We'd planned to go together, her in a mantilla, me in a ruffled traje de gitana we'd picked out side by side. But as we twirled under paper lanterns, her phone buzzed incessantly. She stepped away, voice hushed into the receiver, "Elena, stop. Not now." My stomach plummeted. Elena. The ex. The one who'd left her gutted. I confronted her later, back in her flat, the fair's echoes fading. "Who's Elena calling you for?" She sighed, pouring us rebujitos, sherry and lemonade that tasted bitter now. "She showed up in town. Old flames die hard here. But it's over, Isla. Swear." It wasn't enough. Insecurity bloomed like nightshade. I threw myself into work, pitching bolder campaigns to prove I wasn't just her fling. She noticed, pulling me aside one afternoon in the hacienda's courtyard, fountains bubbling like accusations. "You're pulling away. Talk to me." I did, pouring out fears of being the rebound, the office pet project. She held me, fierce. "You're not. You're everything." For a while, it patched. We took a weekend in Ronda, driving the winding roads to that emerald valley where the Puente Nuevo arched like a defiant lover. There, under cork oaks, she proposed we go public, at least to close friends. "No more hiding. I want you in my life, not the shadows." I said yes, heart swelling. That night, as stars wheeled overhead, we made promises etched in the dark: fidelity, future, forever. But Seville, with its history of conquests and betrayals, had other plans. 2 months in, the firm's annual gala loomed, a glitzy affair at the Metropole Parasol, Seville's honeycomb wonder. I designed the invites myself, gold foil script on crimson stock. Naomi promised it'd be our coming out, hand in hand, toasts to new beginnings. The night arrived in a swirl of sequins and cava flutes. I wore an emerald gown that hugged my curves, hair pinned with a comb from my abuela's collection. Naomi looked devastating in a midnight tuxedo, her eyes lighting on me like I'd hung the moon. Stunning, she breathed, kissing my temple as we entered the throng. Hours blurred, speeches, laughter, her hand warm in mine. Then she excused herself for a quick call, vanishing into a side alcove. I mingled, champagne fizzing in my veins, until a colleague sidled up, Marco, the sleazy account exec with a mustache like a villain's. "Enjoying the show? Naomi's got quite the performance tonight." His wink curdled my stomach. I followed her trail, weaving through velvet ropes to a private lounge overlooking the mushroom caps. There she was, Naomi, pressed against the wall by a woman with raven hair and a laugh like shattered glass. Elena. Their kiss was fire and fury, hands roaming with a familiarity that knifed me. I froze, the world tilting. Betrayal tasted like ash. I didn't scream. Didn't shatter glass then. Just turned, slipping into the night, heels clicking on marble like a countdown. The streets of Seville blurred into a watercolor smear as I stumbled from the Metropole, the gala's laughter chasing me like mocking ghosts. My gown snagged on a lamppost, tearing at the hem, but I didn't care, tears hot on my cheeks, mixing with the sudden spit of rain that turned the air to steam. How could I have been so blind? Naomi's promises, our Ronda vows, they crumbled like the parasol's honeycomb underfoot. I hailed a cab to my tiny piso in Macarena, the driver eyeing my disheveled state in the rearview. "Rough night, señorita." I nodded mutely, staring at the rain-lashed window, replaying the alcove scene, Elena's triumphant smirk, Naomi's momentary surrender. Sleep evaded me that night, the city's pulse, drunken cheers from late-night botellones, a lone accordion wheezing below, mirroring my chaos. By dawn, resolve hardened. I drafted my resignation in the gray light filtering through Persianas, polite, professional, laced with subtext. Grateful for opportunities, but seeking new horizons. No accusations. No bridges burned, yet. I hit send at 7 a.m., then showered off the gala's perfume, the water scalding like penance. The office was a minefield when I arrived, heads turning as I gathered my things, sketchpads, that ridiculous sherry bottle from our first win. Whispers slithered, "Did you hear? Isla's out." Naomi burst in mid-morning, eyes wild, "Blazer ask you." "What the hell, Isla?" Resignation. "We need to talk, now." "Not here," I hissed, aware of prying ears. "Your office." 5 minutes. She paced as I sat ramrod straight, the courtyard fountain mocking us with its endless trickle. "It was a mistake," she started, voice fracturing. Elena cornered me, ambushed with old letters, photos. I froze. But I pushed her away, I swear. By the time I came back, you were gone. Froze. The word tasted venomous. You kissed her, Naomi. Like it was yesterday, not 2 years buried. I stood, fists clenched. Was I just convenient? The fresh start while she lurked in the wings. No. She reached for me, but I stepped back, the space between us a chasm. Elena was chaos, the kind that addicts you. But you're the quiet that heals. I ended it with her that night, for good. Blocked her, everything. Please, Isla. Don't throw us away over one stupid. Laughter bubbled, bitter. You invited me into your world, made me believe in us. And the second she snaps her fingers, you're hers again. Tears welled, unbidden. I trusted you. With my heart, my career. What does that make me? She crumpled then, sinking into her chair, face in hands. The bravest person I know. And the one I don't deserve right now. Silence stretched, heavy as the sirocco winds that rattled the shutters. Finally, she looked up, eyes red-rimmed. Take the week. Think. But don't quit. Not like this. I left without a word, the door clicking like a guillotine. The week dissolved into numb routine, aimless walks along the river, where rowers skimmed the surface like skimming my own shallow breaths, coffee at my favorite plaza, sketching half-formed ideas that went nowhere. Friends, Sarah, the graphic designer with a pixie cut and zero filter, dragged me to a poetry slam in the Alameda, where verses on lost loves felt like arrows. Dump her ass, Sarah urged over post-show Tinto de Verano. Boss or not, she played you. But dumping wasn't clean. Naomi texted daily, miss your fire in meetings. Coffee. Saw a Guadalupana mural, thought of your ink. I ignored most, but one evening, vulnerability cracked me open. Rondo without you feels empty. I replied, it was real for me too. That's why it hurts. We met at a neutral ground, the Alcazar Gardens, where peacocks strutted amid manicured hedges, oblivious to human folly. She arrived with 2 gelatos to turn, handing me one like an olive branch. No pressure. Just talk. We wandered the labyrinthine paths, the air scented with rose and regret. She owned her mess, Elena's pattern of reappearing like a bad sequel, her own weakness for the familiar flame. I panicked. Thought one kiss would exorcise her, prove I was over it. Stupid, selfish. Her voice trembled. But losing you. That's the real haunting. I wanted to hate her, but humanity has a way of muddying absolutes. I saw a future, Naomi. Us, building something real amid this madness. Now. I'm terrified it's all smoke. She stopped by a pomegranate tree, fruit splitting ripe under the sun. Let me earn it back. Slowly. No gala grand gestures, just us, honest. Against better judgment, or maybe because Seville's magic lies in second chances, I nodded. Slowly. Rebuilding was tentative, like piecing a mosaic from shards. We started with ground rules, no office overlap, public dates only, therapy for her. She found a counselor specializing in expat heartbreak. Our first post-gala outing was a quiet picnic in the Maria Luisa, blankets spread under palms, sharing jamon and stories of childhood's oceans apart. She laughed at my tales of Chicago blizzards versus her Seattle drizzles. I melted at her vulnerability, reciting a Lorca poem she'd memorized for me. Work shifted too. I stayed on, but boundaries sharpened. I led a new olive oil campaign solo, pitching it with a fire that earned nods from the board. Naomi cheered from afar, her pride evident in subtle ways. A post-it on my desk with proud of your vision, and tension lingered, but so did the spark. Late nights, we'd meet at her place for movie marathons. Carol one evening, her hand squeezing mine during the stolen glances, whispering deconstructions that veered into deeper confessions. Yet conflict simmered beneath. Elena didn't vanish quietly. A week before our 3-month reset anniversary, a package arrived at the office, for Naomi, unmarked but reeking of intent. Inside, a locket with a photo of them in Madrid, notes scrawled in Elena's looping script, "Remember who lit your fire first? She's just borrowing it." Naomi showed me immediately, face ashen. "Burn it?" she asked, holding it out. We did, in her balcony's chimenea, flames devouring the past as rain pattered approval. But the ash clung. That night, doubts resurfaced. What if she keeps coming back? I whispered, curled against her. What if I'm always the interim? You're not, she vowed, fierce. You're the story I want to write till the end. Climax brewed unexpectedly during the firm's summer retreat in Cordoba's hill country, a converted cortijo amid olive groves, where team building meant wine tastings and trust falls. Elena, undeterred, crashed the event. She charmed a junior exec into an invite, arriving in a whirlwind of silk scarves and sultry Spanish, eyes locking on Naomi like a predator's. The air thickened that first dinner, under a canopy of stars, paella simmering on open fires. Elena seated herself beside Naomi, laughter tinkling like broken bells, anecdotes from their wild days laced with innuendo. I sat across, fork stabbing rice, jealousy a live wire. Naomi deflected gracefully, ancient history, Elena, but the damage seeped. Whispers rippled, Naomi's ex. Drama alert. By the second day, it erupted. A group hiked to a mirador overlooking the Guadalquivir Valley, dust kicking up under boots, the sun a relentless judge. Elena pulled Naomi aside at a rest point, voices rising over the cicadas. You think she can handle you? The real you, passionate, untamed. She's a kitten, I'm the storm. I rounded the bend then, catching the tail, Naomi's flushed denial, Elena's scoff. Rage ignited. Storm. More like a hurricane of hurt, I snapped, stepping between them. Leave, Elena. This isn't your stage anymore. Elena's eyes narrowed, venomous. Oh, the little protégé speaks. Naomi, tell her how you begged me to stay last time. Naomi's face drained. Lies. All of it. But Elena pressed, pulling a phone with old voicemails, Naomi's voice, slurred with wine and weakness. Come back, mi amor. Can't do this without you. The group froze, hike abandoned. Humiliation burned, but worse was the fracture in Naomi's gaze, guilt, not denial. Elena smirked triumph, sauntering off with call me when you wake up. I fled down the trail, thorns snagging my jeans, sobs choking me. Naomi caught up at the cortijo's edge, grabbing my arm. Isla, wait, those were from the breakup haze. I was broken, not in love. Broken enough to keep the messages. I whirled, rain starting to fall in fat drops. You said you blocked her. Deleted everything. Was that a lie too? Thunder rumbled, mirroring the storm inside. I kept them as a reminder of what not to become. Masochistic, yeah. But you, God, Isla, you're my redemption. Words failed. I shoved past, barricading in my room as the retreat unraveled, awkward goodbyes, Elena's dramatic exit in a hired Fiat. Alone, I curled on the bed, the humanistic ache settling. Love isn't flawless, it's forged in the flawed. But trust. Once shattered, it's porcelain. She knocked till knuckles bled, apologies seeping under the door. Dawn brought fragile peace. I emerged, eyes puffy. I need space. Real space. Not resets. She nodded, shattered. Whatever you need. Just. Don't disappear. Space became my compass. I took leave, subletting a friend's casita in the whitewashed hills of Grazalema, where the world narrowed to cork oaks and goat bells, the Sierra's peaks a silent jury. No Wi-Fi, just a battered radio crackling with Radio 3's flamenco sets and a journal where I poured the detritus. Betrayal isn't a single stab, it's the slow bleed of what-ifs. Naomi respected the boundary, postcards only, penned in her looping hand, vistas of Cordoba's mezquita, quotes from Whitman on the body's electric pole. Thinking of you under these arches. Healing. I healed in fragments. Mornings hiking goat paths, lungs filling with pine-scented air, afternoons sketching ad concepts for a phantom client, reclaiming my voice. Sarah visited once, bearing manchego and tough love. You're too good for her circus, Isla. But if it's real, make her prove it. Nights, stars blanketing the valley, I trace constellations and wonder if love could be humanistic, not fairy tale perfect, but resilient, like the olive trees twisting through stone. A month in, resolve bent. A letter arrived, not postcard, pages thick with confession. Naomi detailed her unraveling, therapy sessions excavating Elena's hold, the firm's HR consult on power dynamics, a solo trip to Madrid where she'd returned the locket in person, final as a full stop. I'm learning, Isla. Not just for you, for me. The woman you deserve. Enclosed, tickets to a Lorca reading in Seville, no strings. If you come, we talk. If not, I understand. I went. Not for her, but for closure, the kind that honors the beauty amid the wreckage. The reading was in the Casa de la Memoria, a candlelit chamber where poets once whispered against Franco's shadow. She sat in the back, unassuming in jeans and linen shirt, eyes lighting when I slipped in beside her. No embrace, just a nod, tentative as spring. After, over cortados at a nearby cafe, words flowed like the Guadalquivir at flood. She owned the totality, the kisses, the kept relics, the fear that Elena's chaos mirrored her own unresolved wildness. I betrayed you because I betrayed myself first, clinging to pain like identity. Tears traced her cheeks, unashamed. But you showed me grace isn't weakness. It's the bravest rewrite. I shared my Grazalema epiphanies, how betrayal unearthed my own patterns, people-pleasing, fearing abandonment rooted in my parents' divorce. I didn't just lose you that night. I confronted me, the woman who stays small to stay safe. Vulnerability bridged us, not passion. I don't know if we're fixed, I admitted. But maybe we're both a little less broken. We parted with a hug, prolonged, but chaste, promising nothing but presence. Back in Seville, life resumed its tango. I returned to Estrella, leading the Olive campaign to acclaim, Naomi's seating spotlight gracefully. Our reconnection unfolded in daylight, brunch at Dos Palillos, where we dissect dreams over dim sum, volunteer shifts at a Triana women's shelter, painting murals with queer youth who reminded us of younger selves, fierce and forming. Conflict lingered, subtle as fault lines. Office gossip evolved to wary acceptance. Elena's shadow faded to footnote when Naomi shared her story in a team vulnerability workshop, normalizing the mess of being human. But the deepest quake came internally, for me, in forgiving without forgetting, for her, in sustaining change. 6 months post-gala, climax crested not in fury, but quiet profundity. We'd planned a simple anniversary, picnic at the river's bend, where willows wept into the water. But as we unpacked gazpacho and membrillo, thunderheads gathered, unleashing a deluge that soaked us to bone. Laughing, we dashed for shelter under a stone bridge, the torrent roaring like applause. There, drenched and shivering, she knelt, not dramatic, but deliberate, pulling a small box from her jacket. Inside, a silver bracelet, etched with Lorca's line, "I want to do with you what spring does with the cherry trees." Not a proposal, she said, voice steady amid the storm. A promise. To show up, every day. To choose you, over ghosts. If you'll have me. Tears mingled with rain on my face. This was the drama, not shattering glass, but mending with intention. Betrayal's scar remained, a reminder of fragility, but love's humanism bloomed in the repair. 2 women, flawed and fierce, weaving a tapestry from threads of hurt and hope. Yes, I whispered, clasping the bracelet, pulling her up into an embrace that defied the downpour. Every day. The rain eased as we emerged, Sevillent sun-piercing clouds in golden shafts. We walked home hand in hand, the city unfolding like a love letter, alleys alive with laughter, the Giralda tolling vespers. No fairy tale perfection, Just us, real and radiant, changed forever by drinks that sparked a fire worth tending. In the end, Seville taught us that stories aren't linear, they spiral, scarred but soaring. And in each other's arms, we found not just romance, but redemption, the quiet revolution of loving wholly, humanly, home.